Hello everyone. I'm here with Scott Cowan of AfricaLegal, and as always, I'm here speaking to entrepreneurs that I've met along the way who've got a story to tell. And the reason I'm sitting here with Scott is that we've known each other now for over 18 months. I don't know how long it's been a while.
Actually, I think it's longer than that. It's probably about two years.
2 years,
Yeah.
Incredible. We had a great start to our story as well. Just met in slightly unusual circumstances.
Very unusual, yeah.
Unusual circumstances. But the reason why we connected was because when we had that initial conversation, Scott, you talked about AfricaLegal, and it was really in those early stages. And for those of you who don't know what AfricaLegal is, it's a platform that will help connect legal practitioners across the African continent with each other. Will provide training and all sorts of other services. Perhaps if you can tell us a little bit about what the platform is doing, because it is the first to market.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for inviting me this evening. AfricaLegal is simply an online digital platform which is Pan-African, as you quite rightly mentioned. And our vision, myself and my co-founder Wendy Bampton, our vision and passion has always been about creating a community where people have access to news, latest news, interviews, education, and jobs in one place.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, it is, and we've talked about this very briefly already this evening before we went live, is that it is the first to market. It taps into a massive Pan-African feeling and movement. As you were saying a little bit earlier, I think when you started off, it felt a bit ahead of its time. And now, even I visited Ethiopia earlier this year, and you really get the feeling that lawyers and professionals across the continent are wanting to come together to be able to really push forward, not just legal capacity, but all sorts of other things. And I think the platform really kind of taps into that.
Do you know, I think you're right. We were invited to attend the Nigerian Bar Association section of business law in Abuja by the committee, and it was an incredible experience for both Wendy and I to really engage with a lot of our connections. And that whole event, conference, was based around the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which has been signed at the moment by about 44 countries in Africa.
I think 49 now, actually.
Yeah. So that really is about the free movement of goods and of personnel. So it was a really kind of apt time for us to be at that conference. And the appetite that we got from especially the young lawyers and the law students was incredibly passionate. We felt the passion all the event for the ability just to absorb and to gain more education and really better oneself. So that was really encouraging for us.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that interests me about what AfricaLegal does is that not only is it kind of tapping into something that's a live trend across the African continent, but also it's part of a global trend to use technology more to kind of ensure that people are building out the networks, expertise, education, and it helps lawyers do that in a way which is very accessible.
Absolutely, I think technology is so quickly these days, and that most people we know, even in Africa, have one, if not two phones. And being able to provide education and news relevant to an industry specific via mobile into Africa is it's groundbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, as you will know this is going slightly off topic, but with the African Free Trade Agreement, they were saying there's 1.2 billion people across the continent. The ability to connect all of those people using, through the Free Trade Agreement, so allowing people to move freely, allowing services to be provided, which means that what the platform is going to be able to do is access that, that whole region.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think some of the quotes that we've been throwing at us on our journey is by 2030, the continent's working age population is set to increase by 2/3. There's 370 million adults. in 2010 to over 600 million adults all wanting to better themselves.
Yeah.
And there was an incredible intellect across the continent that really is not being given any visibility. And for us, AfricaLegal, which is first in a series of verticals, gives them an opportunity to put themselves and tell the world what Africa's doing.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of deals with, I guess, the purpose of the platform. One of the things that, and thank you to everyone who's joined so far. If you've got questions about, technology, building out platforms, legal education, personnel, just please, write a comment and we'll look to answer it. But one of the things I think is good for our viewers, because obviously as a law firm, what we do is we help support businesses through growth. And, when we met, you were looking for some funding, you've had that funding, you're going for Series A. And so the challenges that you face, and I think before we went on, we were talking about, what that means in reality, especially when you're coming at it. So, and your real life experience of kind of getting to that seed and then Series A and that in-between phase that we discussed.
I think it's a good point, and it's a point that people somewhat don't like to discuss. Everyone wakes up and wants to be an entrepreneur, and especially in the tech age, with technology, and I think it's a kind of sexy area to get into. But a lot of people don't see all the businesses that have failed. They only see the ones that are shining brightly, and all the sacrifices one has to go through, from selling your watch, selling your cars, etc. But I think fundamentally, when someone starts a business, you have to have a passion for the product you're looking to develop or looking to sell. And it's not just about the monetary value, it's about, does that product actually enhance the lives of the people, the users you want to target?
Yeah, and that's something you've always said consistently. You and Wendy have been consistent.
And Wendy's is probably more passionate about that than I am, to an extent in terms of the operational side. But being able to do that. But I think from your point of view, from a legal firm and who look after SMEs, I think there's a real gap in the market. As you mentioned before, you alluded to before, people go from either family and friends funding to maybe a bit of seed investment. There's a big gap. There's a big gap between that seed investment and a Series A investment. And that's where a lot of businesses can fail. And very successful ones you think have got real good chance of being very successful fail because there's no one looking at the market. When you're looking at some kind of investments, people are looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 million pound plus. Then people get excited. But what happens to that period where it's so important that people have supported? And I think law firms can help them in that area.
I mean, certainly we do, as you know, that we have that retainer support and various things that we provide to businesses. But I think the reason why I think that I wanted to speak to you was not just the fact that it's been real time for us, because I've known you from the point of development. It was just you and Wendy trying to go out, get some funding, getting to a point where you've now been able to really find people that you're going to be able to deliver training to using the technology that you've developed. And so that's been a real growth. That it doesn't happen overnight. As we said, we've been talking for 2 years and it's taken that time. So that was the reason that I thought it'd be helpful to actually talk to you about that, because people get frightened sometimes about not just the legals, the regulatory, the accounting, the marketing and all sorts. The development of the business is always holistic. It's all of those different things.
And price is so sensitive for small businesses, for startups. You only have a certain allocation of funds. And a lot of people, especially the GDPR coming in, coming in, a lot of businesses weren't ready, and certain small startup businesses weren't ready either. So the fact that you helped us out with that in terms of delivering that for our product is incredible. And again, on a really good price structure, which is a retained product, which is affordable over a period of time. To go to some of the larger firms, it just wouldn't work.
It would be difficult. But I mean, you still need to be, as a small business, you still have to be compliant. You still have to do those things.
You do.
Yeah. Can I ask you, do you think that, we've talked about building up the platform and getting the funding in to be able to do that. How do you see things progressing? I mean, just bringing it back to what's going on in the news post-Brexit, is that something that you're looking forward to? Will that be helpful to you? Are you indifferent to it?
Well, I've got to say from AfricaLegal point of view and the African Professional Services, I think our Theresa May did us a really good speech when she went on the African tour recently.
Right, okay, so we get to know your take on that.
Yeah, because I just think, obviously there's looking at establishing more trade agreements across Africa. And two of the fundamental basics Theresa May made, certainly in the Cape Town talk, was the creation of jobs and education.
Okay.
So, for us, that was a real win, and it enabled us to really sit down, both myself and Wendy, and say, do you know what, it's been a long journey, but we're on the right path.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a rubber stamp in a way.
So this is interesting. So if people have questions about maybe the interplay of Brexit and the ability and opening up into global markets, please do write in. And I'm sure you've got plenty to say about that. But it really did strike me that one of the issues that we've been having, especially after I did my Ethiopian trip, is that we've been very Eurocentric in the way that we've been discussing Brexit, and I have my own views on that. But actually, if we were to find a way of working with Commonwealth countries, working more widely, that would be helpful to us. But then also, having said that, Scott, when I was there, I really got the feeling that the African Union is looking to work as an African Union too. So they're also looking to do intra-Africa trade and to trade freely with each other. But that interplay between the UK and the African countries.
I think that's always been there, and I think the UK certainly has a great opportunity to really develop some really strong trade agreements across Africa. For us as a business, yes, we're Pan-African, but we concentrate on we're doing bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
So we work very closely with a lot of our good friends and colleagues in Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Uganda.
Yeah.
And at the moment that's an incredibly busy time, but the appetite for working outside of Africa at the moment, and for some of the South Africa working outside Africa and dealing with the UK and Europe is still there.
It's still
There's
there.
a lot of business. Africa, people keep saying it, but Africa, as far as we know, is certainly open for business, and it's a passion for us.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we develop that together?
Yeah. I mean, I think equally for me, because, I was raised in Malawi,
Yeah.
I have a really, really kind of keen interest in what happens in that region. And certainly, the ability to be able to point to what you're doing and what others are doing to say, actually, the intra-trade, the trade between the UK and the rest of the world, and especially Africa and the UK. I mean, that's something that I think that we're going to want to encourage, and there are going to be lawyers now, because of what you're doing, that are now being able to be given a platform, given the credibility, the exposure for people here to go, actually now we've got practitioners that we can turn to, which is incredible.
Yeah. And it's not just about the people within the continent, it's also about the diaspora as well, looking to go back. We've been contacted by so many people across the globe. Some people working in New York, working in some really, really big law firms who are looking to go home, but they know the larger firms, but they also want to know what the smaller firms are doing. And we've got such an incredible story to tell with some of the contacts that we have.
And I think that's another reason why we were we were also interested in kind of speaking with each other, is that idea of having the technology not replace necessarily lawyers, but give consumers the ability to go and access lawyers in a way in which they couldn't before. So, most people go and find the big four law firms, but even with us, we do corporate transactional work. And so someone looking to find lawyers here, they'd be able to find a smaller practice, similarly going the other way.
And that is our passion. We've recently returned from the AfricaLegal Awards in South Africa, and we were asked to partner with the Legal Week, who are the runners, and because of our connections across Africa, and we encouraged a lot of our contacts to make applications, and there's three that stick into mind, and this is really what the platform's about. We're talking about the larger firms. A lot of people know the larger firms within each jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But we've got an incredible story with one of our dear friends who we met up with, Nelson Ashifa from Ashifa Advocates in Nairobi, who started his law firm with $150 from his mum and dad.
Yeah.
And he's now he was shortlisted for Small Business of the Year, Small Law Firm of the Year, and he was Kenyan Law Firm of the Year. Then we go to Uganda and we work with a company called Signum Advocates. We met Signum here in the UK, and they've got incredible entrepreneurial spirit. Nothing is a problem with them. And again, they were shortlisted, highly commended. And then we go down to Zimbabwe. Now, Zimbabwe's recently had an election.
Yes.
And we met with Lloyd Moncourt, who's a managing partner of a great firm down there, who's had relationships with the AfricaLegal network and know a lot of the people. And they won. They won it this year.
Yeah.
And our platform is giving these guys an opportunity to brand themselves and put themselves onto a showcase where the globe can access top quality lawyers.
Yeah. No, I can see that, and that's transformative from an access point of view.
Absolutely.
From the point of view of having practitioners feel like they have now a playing field, an equal playing field when it comes to getting some of this work. So that's great. In terms of kind of where you see, just kind of coming back to where you see the legal trends taking you over the next, 2 to 3 years, what do you see happening in terms of, again, the interplay between the UK and the African continent, or, would you be looking to go more global with the platform? How do you see that developing?
Our passion and our focus is always going to be Africa. Africa's got a great story to tell, and so many entrepreneurial, incredibly bright and incredibly articulate professionals. And we feel very strongly about building that strong community, not just across the continent, but obviously the diaspora as well. And for us, that is our prime focus, is actually building that out and giving visibility to these law firms. And what's going to happen over the next 2 years? I think that a lot of the established law firms in certain jurisdictions, I think you're going to see some people splinter off, as we have seen in the UK over many years, and create specialist law firms. That's a series we're running with our editorial team at the moment. I think there's going to be a big emphasis on people delivering into specializations. For instance, we met a great guy, Yemi, who has a business in Nigeria, a law firm in Nigeria, who's specifically focused on music law.
Okay.
So, that's kind of almost unheard of.
Yeah.
So he's kind of paving the way in terms of transformation and entrepreneurship, which is again is rife across Africa.
Yeah. And in fact, I got the same feeling. So, I was discussing with practitioners over there. So over here, we're very used to specializing early on or having a niche. So our niche would be, SMEs, commercial corporate, we do the litigation. But, we have a particular focus. Whereas over there, I was speaking to practitioners and they said quite often we still work more generally, but that idea of specializing is now coming in and people are looking at that much more than they were before. So, no, I think it is interesting, and it's always interesting to do the comparison. And I guess
so I think it's the young lawyers.
Yeah.
It's the young lawyers who are pushing that trend.
It's always that. So, the legal profession, wherever you go in the world, is always resistant to change. It's not... it takes time. People don't want to use these things, or don't want to use those methods. We work differently because we've just been set up differently from the beginning. But actually, and I could do that because I started from scratch. But, there's always that resistance to change. But I think you're absolutely right. Once you've got a young generation of people coming in, they're used to accessing things online, or kind of accessing learning, or kind of just connecting with people in a way that maybe people never used to before.
Well, and I think that these young lawyers are working some large firms at the moment. And I think that the founding partners and the managing partners and the more senior lawyers within these firms, probably not used to people leaving the firm.
No.
But I also think there's a real opportunity for them to really give some kind of mentorship to them as well. Really, because we all started somewhere. We all sold the watch, as I said at the beginning. We've all sold the car, and we all started like Nelson with $150 from his parents. But so we should never forget the journey that we're on, and we should help as many people as possible on the way.
And that's another thing. I think that I said business is not just law or regulation or compliance. It's very holistic. It's just that making sure that along that journey that you've got the right people around you to kind of ground you and support you, and just having people who are able to, even when you're not at that point where you're revenue generating, people saying, I still believe in your idea, I'm still going to kind of stand by you, which is,
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, waking up and thinking, am I doing the right thing? Do you know, I think, we're very incredibly lucky. We've got a great international advisory board around us with some top individuals, not just in law, I may say, but that's across a whole spectrum, from finance and fintech, etc. And I think at times, you do need to just pick up the phone and say, are we doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And it's just that little yes, you're okay, or a little bit of a sense check.
Yeah.
And again, that can also happen with your lawyers as well.
Yeah.
You have to pick up the phone and say, I think what makes a good law firm in terms of what you're building is that you get involved in business. And because you're working with SMEs, there's not so many gates to go through, hurdles to get over before you get to someone.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you have that continuous conversation.
Yeah, and I think and like you were saying, and in fact, I was going to ask you, what do you think your top 5 tips would be for entrepreneurs and people starting out?
Top 5.
Top 5, but I think
thick skin.
Yeah.
Thick skin. You've got to have a passion, and I'm hoping that that's one thing that certainly comes across when I meet with all my contacts is a passion for delivery, and that's something that Wendy and I are really, really keen on. You've got to have a clear goal. You've got to be able to clear goal. I think one of the main things that enabled us to get to where we are at the moment, and we're still a long way off, don't get me wrong, is stickability. At times you feel like just going. Someone once said to me, when are you going to get a real paid job? When are you going to get a proper job? Not understanding what we're doing. But you have to have, so my tips would be consistent in your delivery. You have to be thick-skinned. Be completely driven in terms of the product that you're selling. Ask for help. Ask for help. We can't do it all. We need that help. And you know what? Smile along the way. Yeah. Just a big smile, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
And even when you get that door that shuts on your face, the way I look at it is one door shuts, another one opens.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that even when we first met, I think that was always there. You can usually tell when someone is really because as you were saying, people think it's something really exciting, it's going to be great, there's going to be loads of money, but actually most entrepreneurs that I know, most people who are starting up or even on that journey, they know there are ups, they know there are downs, and they just, they get through it with the smile, with the drive, with the fact that they've got people they can turn to and speak to, and that's great. And if you're a lawyer that works with SMEs, the nice thing is when someone does come and say, what do you think? Because that's the bit that most lawyers, if they're working with businesses, really love doing, actually.
And there's passing on experiences from previous clients. Yeah. Because it's a tough gig at times. But getting some feedback from the market and feedback from what you're creating is incredibly exciting. I mean, and we talked about this earlier, but one thing I just want to mention is that Wendy and I had an email following our trip to Abuja, to the SBL, and we had a lovely email from Usani, who works at Ponca Attorneys, and he said during the breakout session, he mentioned that we had a conversation with him and we encouraged him to broaden his horizons with regards to his personal development, and especially with regards to the African Continent Free Trade Agreement we just talked about, and the changing phase of legal practice in the continent. And then we introduced him to AfricaLegal, and the prodding and the encouragement and the motivation to him he applied for a master's degree in Pretoria University, and he's based in Lagos, and he's just been accepted. And he said, had it not been for us, that he would never have done that.
Yeah.
And do you know what? That there was no monetary value there for us or anything, but that is why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And when your target audience come back and give you that kind of feedback, it kind of pushes you for the next step.
That's exactly, you're exactly right. And that's the thing. And because you guys, and I know this from, just having known you, that you're genuinely passionate about what you do, you really care about it. Even when we first met, you were like, I'm so passionate about the education bit of this. I really want to do it. And it's, it's a challenge. It's a big project. It's the first to market. I think it's brilliant. I'm so pleased that we've been able to catch up.
And thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me this evening.
Well, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure. As I said, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email Scott at
AfricaPSG.com.
Yeah, and you can check out AfricaLegal at
Africa-legal.com.
Yeah, and we'll put up some blurb after this is posted on our Facebook page. But thank you for joining, and we look forward to seeing you at the next live legal update, which will be in November sometime. But thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks.
Right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks again.
No problem.